Welcome to Plus One Fourth, the podcast powered by the Apocalypse, where we talk about tabletop role-playing games using or inspired by the Apocalypse engine. I'm your MC, Rach, and today we have Heather and Aura of Sinister Beard Games. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hey.
Thank you for having us.
How long have you two been playing powered by the Apocalypse games? What was your gateway?
For me, I actually got started with the first playtest of Apocalypse World itself back in 2010, 2011, whenever that first came out. And I played that through Monster Hearts and Dungeon World, but kept going back to just kind of basic Apocalypse World. So I just kind of there from the very beginning, honestly.
Personally, I'm almost a complete newbie to the Apocalypse World system. I have dabbled a little bit with Monster of the Week, but not extensively.
Fascinating. Let's move over to Read a Sitch and we'll talk a little bit about Powered by the Apocalypse play culture.
Read a Sitch.
Read a Sitch is a discussion of a topic that our guests want to spotlight involving Powered by the Apocalypse table culture or play culture. Aura, before we start recording, we had discussed a topic a little bit about MCs and the amounts of tools an MC has at their disposal in a Powered by the Apocalypse game.
Right. In particular, when you've got the system where you're not making rolls and you're just kind of making choices, that's kind of probably my favorite aspect of anytime there's a Powered by the Apocalypse system. I love having just a list of options and I just pick one that sounds good and go with it. But I am currently actually playing for the first time and not emceeing in a game, and I'm seeing how other people are kind of approaching that.
Is there any observations that you've noticed that stand out?
Yeah, I think there is a balance that you have to stick between being too mean or forward or aggressive with some of those options. Like when your list of choices is just a blanket statement to just inflict harm or cause a problem, there's not always a lot of guidance there as to what the particulars should be. So sometimes you can go a little too hard with it. Sometimes you can kind of pull your punches. And I think in particular is finding the right balance and finding the right thing to do is kind of a struggle.
What guidelines would you say you use in terms of deciding how aggressive to go in with a MC move?
Personally, just as preference, I like to be as aggressive as possible. I, in particular, have a group of people that I've been playing with for a long time, and I know that I kind of know the sweet spot of where to push forward and where not to, But I definitely think that when you're given the option to just do something and you don't have to worry about rolling any dice or in many other mechanical situations, you just pick what sounds best.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be as forward as possible with it. I want to make a situation or an obstacle that we look at now, and here's the new thing that we have to deal with. And I want it to be particularly nasty or terrible because it's the next point in the story.
Fair. In the MC position, there can be an awful lot of moves to pick from, and some of them can be equally as nasty from the MC perspective. How do you guide your choices? Do you go in for whatever will hurt the most immediately, or do you think about long-term setup for ideas you might have in the back of your mind?
I plan as little as possible when it comes to games. I like to just sit down, remember what we're doing that day, and then go ahead. So I don't really put anything on the back burner, but I kind of just look for gauging the temperature of the group. Do people look like they need to slow down? Do things need to pick up? And from there, just kind of forcing NPCs into the proper peg holes that they need to be in order to make things happen.
Have you ever had an instance of feeling like you've overstepped or gone too far in terms of making an MC move?
Oh, yeah. There's been plenty of opportunities to where people tell you to, either that didn't make much sense or I feel it was too much, and then to just kind of step back, roll back, and do the scene over again. But I feel like that's a strength of the system when you just pick a thing and say it. You don't have to backtrack over numbers or any mechanics. It's just speaking. It's the conversation. So I think it's really easy to do that.
To take a step aside and have a conversation with the player saying, okay, this might not have gone as we expected it.
Right.
It might not be the most fun. How do we want to change that? Do you use any safety tools for doing table support like that? Or is it just a open conversation with the table?
We do have the X card and script change by my friend Bo, which is another popular one. We have those there at the table, but we also just try to be as talkative and communicative as possible to just know where everyone's at. Like, I feel like if we're talking, since we all know each other and have for a long time, we do have that comfort to like speak up and say things to each other. But we've got standbys just in case, which are also important if you're not as comfortable with the group you're playing with.
I think in convention games is a great example of a table that we might not be that familiar with, although in the pandemic times, going to conventions is pretty much not really a thing anymore.
Yeah, I've been to a few like local conventions. I haven't made the grander circuit, definitely, but you do get just complete strangers sitting with you, and it is important. But I still feel that one of the strengths of the system is that it's very easy to roll back what you said. There's a lot of room. It's a system based on having a conversation, and as long as you understand how to speak to another human being, you're good to go.
Open your brain.
We're going to go over next to Open Your Brain, where my guests and I are going to discuss the Powered by the Apocalypse game they're working on. Extreme Meatpunks Forever. What's this game about? What's the setting?
So, this is an elevator pitch that I've been working on for the past several years.
Go on.
Extreme Meatpunks Forever is a Powered by the Apocalypse game about gay disasters beating up neo-Nazis and giant robots made of meat. It is a weird and gory alternate universe version of America in which essentially all the problems of our world are sort of taken and elevated directly to the surface, so you're forced to confront them. It's a game about queerness, it's about brokenness, it's about climbing into a giant monstrous robot that's made of meat and essentially becoming something greater than yourself and worse than yourself at the same time. To enter into a body that is both very true to who you are on the inside and also very false from that inside person. I feel like that dichotomy is a thing that really drives Meatpunks as a game. On an actual tabletop role-playing game, like what it actually is, it is a game about piloting mechs, fighting neo-Nazis, discovering mysteries like some kind of fucked up Scooby-Doo gang, and just generally learning about the other characters and growing those interpersonal bonds or destroying those interpersonal bonds. We have a breakup mechanic.
That's amazing. I know there's a lot of games with mechanics for what happens when your characters get together, but not a lot of them have mechanics for when your characters have a complete falling out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the setting itself. What lends it so well to this is that it is very... I always circle back to using the adjective brutal, but not necessarily in like a graphic sense, but just like very, very forward, very like emotionally on the table. Like it's not something that's pulling its punches. So it's easy to like dig in and like get your hands dirty with.
In terms of the setting being brutal, could you expand on that a little bit in detail for our listeners? Just in case they're wary or concerned about the content of the game.
There's shades of violence here. There's obviously a sense of discomfort and seeing the worst possible side of things at times, but it's also about connection and something that spoke to me as a queer person, as someone who has kind of felt that discomfort and seen it and the emotional undertones of what you're looking at. So it didn't feel sterilized when I looked at it. Like I didn't feel like this was a game about being queer. It was a game that itself was. It's just very honest and it's not pulling its punches. So there are definitely times where it can be uncomfortable, but it's an exploration into what you're dealing with and who you are as a person. And when you have like subject matter that's not pulling its punches like that, it's so much easier to write for, and it's a lot more fun.
I did want to add that additionally, we do have certain things written into the core of the game for harm reduction. So it's not like this is a game where your DM will just dump trauma after trauma after trauma on you. Like, we have specific mechanics and also systems in place to just say, like, hey, this is a game about confronting harm. It is not a game about inflicting harm.
I think that's a very good distinction to make, and I think that's a conversation game designers are having right now about games that are about inflicting harm on the players versus games that are making space for players and the MC to have a conversation about harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. It is there to take the journey with you, as is the source material. It's not there to just glamorize how awful things could be. It's talking about some tough things at times, but it's definitely at the end of the day still a game and still an activity that you're doing with your friends. So it's meant to help you with that.
What mechanics are different in this game versus Apocalypse World?
I've been looking at the burned over version of Apocalypse World that just kind of came out, the hack book. And in that, Vincent is sort of looks like he's taking a step towards moving away from the hyper-violence of the original setting and kind of digging more into like the social cues. And I think that's also something that we're trying to find the balance with. The game's got its share of fighting and exploration, but it's really trying to find a way to give you mechanical incentive to exploring relationships without a way that feels forced or rolling to see if you like someone, you know, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more trying to give a framework for exploring what you mean to another person and what they mean to you. It's not something that necessarily I've seen given a lot of mechanical heft in a lot of Powered by the Apocalypse systems. And I'm hoping as we're working through the quick start and getting it release ready that we can further refine that and dig into that after we've gotten some more feedback.
I had noticed that with the statuses, where there's space given to not just physical harm and physical healing, but also explorations with emotional and mental harm and healing, and there being a focus there as well.
Yeah, I think when you say that you have a game about part of it's about like mechs fighting each other, the idea is that there's going to be a lot of focus on the physicality of it. And what I really like about what Heather's made is that it's there, but there's like a lot more to it than that.
What are your favorite moves in the game and why?
Personally, I think I have to go for the excellent fight move, Fuck Around and Find Out.
It's so good. The name is excellent.
Yeah, it is a fantastic move. It's the base combat move for when you're outside of your mech, and it allows you to essentially through combat not only take out enemies and learn stuff about your environment, but also allows you to treat fighting people as a form of therapy. You can spend a hold to kick ass in a cathartic way to resolve an emotional or mental status, which I think is fantastic.
I like Have It Out right now if I had to pick one, because I think it's kind of emblematic of what we're trying to build towards social interaction, which is where you confront someone about a difficult subject and you get points or hold to spend towards how their behavior might change towards that. And it's trying to not force people to react a certain way, but giving incentive for really digging into the relationship.
Interesting. One thing I do want to talk about, and this has ties to my day job, is the body horror aspect of the setting. Could either of you expand a little bit more on that?
I could. So I feel like body horror is something that is actually core to the Meatpunks aesthetic. From a world building perspective, the core of Meat World actually is a giant hunk of decaying flesh, upon which there's like dirt and mountains and stuff. But also the core of what it's trying to say is it is a world in which things are both disgusting and beautiful at the same time. It is essentially a way of aesthetically saying all these things that we are sort of trained to discard, all these things that we are sort of told are disgusting, are wrong, can be seen and beautiful in the right light. It is a fundamental aspect of queerness, I think, to kind of be seen as, or to see yourself even as a monster. And to sort of really dig into that feeling and to accept it, to physically become monstrous, to enter a giant robot made of meat. I think there is something really powerful in that. That's something that a lot of people have connected to.
I found it fascinating because professionally I work in pharmacy, but specifically I work in transplant pharmacy. And these are discussions we have with patients a lot because we have patients who have organs that are from other people. And there's an element of disgust in some parts of society with that. But to me, my patients are people. There is nothing horrific about it. But I also recognize there's a personal journey in terms of, to call a spade, body modification. And that being something that I think the mainstream society doesn't have to think about as much or chooses to ignore. That whole process of either physically changing oneself or going on a journey of self-discovery and changing oneself in reaction to what you discover about yourself internally.
Yeah, definitely.
I am definitely excited for some body horror mech action. So let's go to our next section, Act Under Fire, where our guests will run for me a short actual play segment of Extreme Meatpunks Forever.
It is time to act under fire.
For this actual play segment, I'm going to be playing Amber, who is not very tactful, but they're definitely very passionate, and that's my sweet spot. I am ready to bash in some fash heads. How about you, Heather? Who are you playing today?
Today I'm going to be playing as Crow, who trusts and loves too easily, and deep down they're a powder keg of unfortunate trauma waiting to pop.
Okay, great. Do we have pronouns for both characters? What do you guys want?
I will go with they, them.
I'll go they, them for me.
Awesome. There's a lot of scary, weird places in the world, but this one in particular, we're looking at a place called Tornado Valley, named unsurprisingly because there's a lot of storms and a lot of very scary tornadoes. In particular, when the sky has gotten a little bit too scary to keep walking under, you found yourself near a bar to take refuge for a little bit. It's a place called Sigmund's I Love This Bar and Grill, and it's actually the body of a large meat mech. It's just a big gallery of steak here with some wood paneling around it. The neon lights are powered by gas bubbling to the surface. There's this peppery smell that you can't quite identify, but is simultaneously disgusting and alluring. When you swing open the door, you see Sigmund behind the counter, who looks extremely bored, big bear of a guy. But as soon as someone new walks in, he immediately does what he assumes bartenders are supposed to do and picks up a glass and a rag and puts two and two together, starts rubbing it. Got to get that look going. Aside from that, you've also got three scary, shitty-looking people over in the corner who are immediately start kind of snickering and giving you looks as soon as you walk in. I think a lifetime of being you has told you that that's not a good scene, but they're over there as the two of you walk in. So, first impressions, what do you feel like?
Oh, I definitely, I'm looking at my move Mischief, and I've got one hold because it's the beginning of the session.
Yes.
So, GM, how can I get that group of people to shut the fuck up and stop laughing at us?
As dumb as they are, that's not really one of their skill sets, so you would have to take a more direct approach. The way forward, the same as it is with most shitty bullies, is direct confrontation, but it probably won't end in like a they shut up immediately type thing. They'll probably have something to say back, but it's definitely progress.
So lash out physically and make an impression?
Yeah.
Love it.
Hey, it sounds great. What about Crow? What's Crow's take?
Yeah, I think I mostly just want to stay away from outside.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm kind of figuring if we start something, then we might end up in the parking lot.
Yes.
So I am personally trying to stay calm. I have a feeling that Amber is not going to do the same.
It's a good counterbalance here, yeah. Yeah, with that being said, they keep their eyes on you like the entire time. The barkeep is It's opening day here, so like activity is activity. He's just super excited people are here. But Amber, what is your next move here?
I'm going to take the glances and the stares from this group of punks as an invitation. I'm going to go over and ask them, hey, so what's your deal? Have you looked outside? You're judging me for coming in when the weather's such shit?
The shortest one slowly stands up, and you can tell in that act of getting up that they're not necessarily the most sober right now. Inhibitions are totally off. They just kind of give you like a word salad of that you eventually make out to be, what the fuck did you just say to me? And the other two are kind of, they look like they're about to take point. They're one of them's got their eyes on Crow, the other's not breaking eye contact with you in kind of like an intimidation posture. But yeah, Crow, what about you?
I'm doing that thing that the friend of the person who's starting shit does. Essentially, I am like standing sort of behind and to the side and like leaning away in a way that I hope like psychically convinces Amber to like, come on, let's have a fun drink instead of getting into a bar fight. But I feel like Amber and I have probably known each other for a bit at this point. And so I know how this is going to go, and I'm just sort of resigning myself to it.
Yeah. Well, one of them's getting up and the other two don't show any signs of backing down. We'll go ahead and say the short one is trying to staggeringly make his way around the table to meet you. In fact, I think looks like he's got something balled up in his fist, something shiny and large, but you can't quite make out what it is, but he's heading towards both of you. Amber, what's up?
I'm going to glance over my shoulder and take a look at the bartender, the owner of this establishment, and what's his reaction to all this?
He's excited, like not in like a mean way. Like he doesn't want anybody to get hurt, but cool. A bar fight on opening day. There's a story. He gives you like a really big smile and like holds up the cup, which is as clean as it's ever going to be, and nods to you.
I'm going to gesture back and say, fill it.
He's got a drink on tap called the Ass Kicker, and he puts the glass to, it looks like this kind of large intestinal tube coming down the wall, and he sort of places it under there and starts pressing it with his palm until liquid bubbles out into it. It looks absolutely foul, but he sets that down on the counter. I think probably by now the other two are starting to stand up as well. You're having a standoff.
I think I'm going to try to trigger the move act like a dipshit.
Okay.
Hell yes.
And yell at these fools. And to describe my setup for this, be like, I am soon to be a paying customer of this establishment. How much have you paid the owner of this establishment on opening day? Are you here squatting, making fun of potential customers?
All right, that's going to be plus guts. I'm good with that. Let's give a roll there.
So I did not roll well at all because these dice are cursed.
Hell yes.
So that was a 6.
Oh, yeah. So Crow could help out here. That's a possibility. Crow could try to back you up there.
The question is, do I want to help this happen?
You will also kind of take the brunt of whatever happens as well. You are definitely involved.
Yeah, that's fair.
Or you could just let it play out.
Yeah, I will help.
Shifting away.
All right, so that is get up in their business.
What stat is that again?
That's going to be plus love with each other, and we're just going to assume, I believe, everything is just +1, just for simplicity's sake.
Yeah, that's fine. That means I believe that we are acquaintances.
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Well, great news. I rolled 10 plus 1 is 11.
Wonderful.
So I guess I'm also like, I've resigned myself to the situation and I'm just decided, okay, yeah, let's get into a fight.
Right. So what that means is we'll get to do a tiny reroll for that move that Amber just had. You would get to choose, Crow, whether they roll with advantage or disadvantage. And what that means is you'll roll 3 dice, and if you're rolling with advantage, you pick the 2 highest. If you're rolling with disadvantage, you pick the 2 lowest. Presumably, you want to give them advantage, but, I don't know you as a person.
Yeah, I'm going to decide to help on this occasion.
Okay. Go ahead and make that reroll.
All right, I'm going to... Oh, yeah, that was amazing. So that would have been I rolled 12, 2
Wonderful.
6s.
I don't think
Nice.
Yeah.
we're going to get any better.
So they do what you want. and if possible, they get the fuck out of here. I think that's what Amber's saying, is either put up and shut up or leave.
Of minor note, their opinion of you changes, probably for the worse. I don't think you really care about that, but, just something to note. When they see that their kind of usual intimidation tactics are not going to work, they just say some, really hurtful shit and back towards the exit of the bar and head out into the storm themselves, waiting for you. In particular, what's your response to Crow backing you up for that?
As they're leaving, go fist bump. If Crow reciprocates the fist bump is going to be a whole other question.
I am going to see the fist bump, think for a couple seconds, just kind of staring at it, and then resignedly fist bump back.
Okay, great. Let's take a look after maybe you've been waiting in the bar for a little bit, just to kind of skip things forward some, and you're thinking that maybe the storm has passed enough that you could head out. The ass kicker, by the way, was the worst thing you've ever tasted. You saw colors that you didn't know were visible to the human eye. You feel completely different, and it's just this... you've never felt both hot and cold at the same time, but you are now. And as you make your way outside and probably get your bearings and take a look down the road to figure out how to get into town from here to where you were going, you see those same three dipshits. One of them pats the other on the shoulder and points down towards you. They duck behind a rock cliff, like a rock face for a second. And then you hear this wet stomping sound as one of them comes out in their mech. I can only imagine what these things would actually look like. But my visual for it is if you tried to make a Play-Doh person, but out of steak. And you just glued raw meat together and bone and musculature. It's probably about 2 stories tall, and it's coming both of your ways. Luckily, you both have the same thing.
All right, mech time.
All right, so we get into our mechs. All I can imagine is the smell. It probably smells like a butcher shop in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, in the full rules where you are customizing your mech and making it, you do get to pick out sensory details about it, the smell, the taste, the sound, and everything. So there's lots of horrible, gross details to play with. It's a lot of fun. It's probably the most entertaining thing I feel I've ever written. Yeah, so when you go to hook up to your mech, you're going to make your sinew move, which should be in your playbooks. As you're looking for that, in addition, what will happen is you will have a list of stats for your mech that take over now that you're in that instead of what you were using before. Again, for simplicity's sake, we're just going to say they're all +1, so you don't really need to keep track of it, but just as a note.
So I rolled for my sinew roll a 11, which is you may land a hit on a hostile or friendly target, your choice right now. Say why they deserved it. I mean, I think it's obvious why they deserve it.
Yeah.
They treated us like trash. Why let them get the first hit in?
That's good. That's going to give you a really good advantage going into the fight here. I'll get to that in just a moment. What about Crow?
All right, Crow has rolled... I have rolled a 5.
Oh.
No!
So I get nothing.
Okay. The good news here is that mechanically nothing really bad is happening. You just don't get a cool bonus. What you do get, though, is as that pike is sliding into your back, which, can you give me... If you had to do it in a sentence, what does this feel like getting into this thing?
It feels like waking up in another body and that body has no skin.
Yuck. It just feels like spiritually wet in a sense, if you could make that. But also you're getting flashes of memory. Whereas Amber clicked into theirs and seems ready to go and has started to aggressively land a punch, you get a flash of something that just really brings your mood down, something really upsetting, probably something from the past year or two. What do you think came to Crow's mind? They just kind of took you in shock.
Okay, just spinning a backstory out of nothing here. Yeah, I'm thinking... There was a mech crash a year or two ago, and that sort of really was a traumatic experience. Maybe the other person actually didn't get out alive, and Crow is like,
Oof.
still feels kind of guilty about the fact that they did.
Yeah. Like, just flashes of that are just kind of going in front of your eyes, and it's, I don't know, it's somehow more vivid than if you had thought about it just yourself, idly, like while in bed, trying to wind down for the night. It's just, it's strong. You find yourself lagging behind a bit to catch up. Amber, though, has just apparently knocked the shit out of this dude, which is going to take our brawl stat up to +1. Brawl is a stat that hangs over all the players that goes from -3 to +3, and at any time you can use a move called Finish Them to add your brawl to that roll and try to take somebody out. So the more you land a hit on somebody, the better that brawl stat is going to be. Right now it's at +1.
All right, do I make a roll on that?
No. So at any point when I turn to you and I say, Amber, what does Amber want to do? You could say, I want to finish them. And if you do, you'll use the brawl.
Okay.
It'll be stronger the more you punch this guy.
Interesting. All right,
For right
got it.
now, you probably want to do a smash or something similar.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to smash this guy. Is it one mech or several?
Right now it's just the one. Like, his two boys are like on the side cheering him on, like jumping up and down, occasionally flinching when they hear really loud thunder and see a streak of lightning go very close to their location. But right now it's just the one guy.
All right, we're going to body slam him and do a smash,
yeah.
I think.
Okay, so that is going to be plus your corpus.
That's another 6.
Ooh, okay. When you get a 6 or less, the brawl score goes down for you, which means it is harder for you to finish off someone at this point. Yeah, so you were just trying to what? You said body slam him?
Yeah, I almost imagine like trying to get a leap on him and smack them down.
All right, I think he's got like this adrenaline to him. You can see like these pulsing yellow spores in his mech, and as soon as you get your hands on him and his mech like slides back a little bit, he grabs yours like by the back of the head and just bam, like side into the concrete road, and it's just chunks skidding across as he drags you forward a couple of feet, and he's on top of you. He's trying to like whale his fist into you. What about Crow?
I was going to look to Crow. Crow's the smart one.
Okay, I am also going to smash. Let me roll that real quick.
Yes.
Okay, I got an 8 + 1 is 9.
Wonderful.
So that means I hold 2. So I see a few different things that I could do here. For example, I could use 2 hold to kill 2 things weaker than a mech, such as the 2 guys kind of standing on the sidelines.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to become dangerous, so I'm going to leave them be for now, and I'm going to focus on the main guy.
Sure.
Yeah, my main thing is I am going to land a hit on an enemy about my size.
Wonderful.
And then set up an opportunity for Amber to roll with advantage on next move.
Awesome. Yeah, so what does that look like when you pop this guy?
Okay, so I'm imagining my mech is pretty lithe, generally speaking. Like, not exactly a agricultural one. More of a runner, almost a meter cycle. I get to drop all these terms because I'm the one who made them up. I'm imagining while this asshole is dealing with Amber, I kind of run up from the side and pop them like in the side of the head, which unbalances them enough that next move Amber has a better chance at like getting them.
Yeah, perfect. He like falls off and you see just this crunch of open bone and meat on the side of the face, and you can see like him inside wrapped up in like tendrils and tongues inside like a cocoon, except for his exposed face, and he just screams, fuck, and he's like giving you the dirtiest look as he tries to get to his feet. But Amber, what do you want to respond with? You get advantage to this roll, so you'll roll 3 dice.
Great. I think I'm going to smash, but I'm going to climb back up to my feet and just try to whack the mech in the stomach to see if I can skip across the ground.
Awesome.
Let's roll with advantage.
Yes.
So 9.
Wonderful. Okay, so you also get the hold 2. I'll say that our brawl is at +1, so if you want to, I think a good idea, just as unsolicited advice, would be to pick to land a hit, because that'll take it up to +2 and get you very close to finishing this guy off.
Well, let's definitely land a hit. I mean, that was my intent, is I really want to get a good kick in.
Yeah.
And I'm going to set up an opportunity, I think, for Crow to take advantage with the next move.
Okay.
Teamwork.
All right, I am once again going to smash, and I just rolled Snake Eyes. So I'm guessing I'm getting hit.
He does kind of like a wild backswing, and it crushes into you and knocks you back. It's not super awful when you get hit. Go ahead and roll plus your Mex Viscera.
All right, so that's +1. I just rolled a 9 total.
Awesome. We're going to give you a status. We're going to give you off balance, which just means that something I'm making up here on the spot. I'm going to say that if balance particularly matters going forward in this fight, that you'll take disadvantage to it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm sort of stumbling around a little bit, but I'm still
and like
going.
And like when you get up and get your bearings, your meat mech head, I guess, is still ringing a little bit. But yes, Amber.
I think we're going to have to take this opportunity to finish them.
Yeah.
And use Crow as a distraction to do so. That advantage did not go as well as I had hoped.
Go for it.
What's our brawl at?
+2.
+2 for brawl. So I rolled a 7. What does that get me in this case?
That means the move will leave you open to an attack by another enemy if there are, which there aren't right now, or the one that you just smashed will get one last hit on you. I think he, like, as he's falling down, kind of like tries to grab you by the leg, and maybe you also stumble and like these big unwieldy things as you go down, but it's nothing. He's down. There's an explosion of bone and spores, and it's the worst thing you've ever seen, splattered across the road in front of you. And the two of you stand, albeit a bit clumsily, having had your clocks rung, over this guy as the tongues and tendrils unravel from him in the cockpit, and he stares up dead-eyed at the sky.
I would like to take this opportunity to point threateningly at his 2 jerk friends.
Wonderful, yes. I don't know that we have a move for point threateningly, but I'm just going to give you like the best possible outcome for that. They go, and they retreat.
I think that's a good note to end out on.
Yes.
Well, thank you for joining me today again, Aura and Heather, and talking about Extreme Meatpunks Forever. If people want to follow your work on social media or see your latest projects, where could they find you?
I'm on Twitter at DroolHoney, DroolHoney. You can follow me there. I don't really recommend it, but if you want to, you can check out what I'm doing there.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Heatherflowers, which is Heather Flowers, but without any of the vowels. So it's HTHRFLWRS, which was a terrible decision to name an account that, let me just say. It is where I post very loudly about sometimes video games and mostly weird things like this thing that I posted earlier, which was just Eraserhead from the movie Eraserhead Baby. What the hell does that mean? I don't know.
It's not just saying that. That's probably one of my favorite accounts that I followed. I'm very glad
thank you.
to have added that to the repertoire.
And thank you again for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
+1 Forward is a production of the Gauntlet community, Richard Rogers and Rach Shelkey. You can find us at gauntlet-rpg.com or follow us on Twitter at +1FWD. If you would like to support our show, visit our Patreon site at patreon.com/gauntlet. The games mentioned on this show use the Apocalypse engine, which is a creation of Vincent and Magay Baker. The music for +1 Forward is from the Savage Aural Hotbed CD Gomi Daiko. The songs used are Gomi Daiko, Metal Version, and Drowning Attitude. You can find more amazing tunes by Savage Aural Hotbed on their website, www.savageauralhotbed.com.
The Between is coming. The Between is a tabletop role-playing game about a group of mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. These hunters learn about monsters and killers throughout the city and conduct investigations or hunts in order to neutralize them. Over time, they become aware of the plans of a criminal mastermind who is pulling the strings behind the scenes. They will eventually be forced to confront this criminal mastermind in order to save Queen and Country. The Between is directly inspired by the TV show Penny Dreadful, but also takes inspiration from British horror classics, the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, pulp-era media, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, and From Hell. The Between comes with the core rules, 7 playbooks, 9 scenarios or threats, a mastermind sheet, reference sheets, and a supplement called London at Night, The Unseen. You'll be able to get The Between in PDF form via the Gauntlet Patreon in late May. Just go to patreon.com/gauntlet. The Between will be available on DriveThruRPG in June. Can you hear the footsteps in the shadows? Can you smell the metal tang of blood on the air? Can you feel the veil between worlds slipping away with each heartbeat? It's London calling.